We are back with our next conversations with Cabral, where I sit down with Julia Hayes. Julia Hayes is one of our top health coaches over at Equilife, and she is my right-hand person who works with me in my private practice with all of my private wellness clients. It was a real pleasure to be able to sit down with Julia today and go through how she helps people in her own practice and with wellness clients all over the world with all sorts of health-based conditions, whether it be female hormones, thyroid, food sensitivities, gut issues, headaches, you name it, Julia has worked with them. I've been able to, as I said, work with Julia over the past 10 years or so in my practice, and I've got to really see her grow from a nutritionist and personal trainer to certified health coach and integrative health practitioner. And it's a true pleasure to be able to see this growth, and I think it will serve as a success-based story for a lot of people looking to get into the health coaching industry, but also how other people can turn their profession into what they love, like their true passion, while overcoming their own health-based challenges. Julia Hayes is also a mom of two, and so she'll be talking about how she tries to prep healthy meals for the family and do all things that moms are asked to do with so many other different responsibilities in their life. So this is it was a real pleasure. Like I said, a lot of fun to be able to sit down and interview Julia Hayes after working with her for the past decade. Enjoy the show and let us know what you thought.
Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Julia Hayes, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on here today. Excited to be able to introduce you to the community.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So many people don't know this, but Julia has been working with me, alongside me, and on my team now for about 10 years. I'm having difficulty remembering the exact year right now, but I know it's been about 10 years. And you're a pretty amazing transition into this health-based field that I can't wait to share with people today. Plus, we're going to be going over so many different tips about self-care, children's-based health, taking care of your own self, and of course, letting people know that you are one of our coaches on the Equilife health coaching team. And also, you are my head health coach for all of my private wellness clients. So obviously, I think you're going to have a lot to share with this community and a lot for all of us to be able to take away from. So again, once again, welcome to the show. And let's talk about how you did first get started in this field.
Sure. Yeah. So I started out in the health field as a personal trainer. I went to school for something that was pretty different, more of a criminal justice background with my initial schooling, and realized this is nothing that is going to bring me joy. This is not much of what I have a true passion for. And so I went back to school and became a personal trainer. I personal trained for about 4 years before I really decided I can only help people so much by showing them how to exercise. It was certainly a great transition, and I knew that this was now my passion, and I wanted to build it, and I wanted to be able to help people even more than I already was. So I went back to school for nutrition, and then I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And before you had IHP, that was kind of my base for what I was doing with the nutrition side of it. But I also started to, learn from you some of the lab stuff, and I just had a passion for growing more. And so when you came out with IHP, I was already doing some coaching, but that was such an addition to my knowledge base already. And people always ask me, where did you learn all of this? And I tell them that just by working side by side with you for so many years, I just absorbed everything that you talked about on a daily basis. And with every client we talked about, I learned more and more. And it's just become truly my passion of just much like yours, helping the world and helping people understand that they can live a happy, vibrant, healthy life.
Without a doubt. And that was really the way that most people do get into this. And I do believe that's why a lot of people, whether they're an acupuncturist, a yoga instructor, a personal trainer, or a medical doctor, one of the reasons why they come into IHP or Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, or they just choose to learn more, is that they feel like they've maxed out with their current knowledge base in terms of what they can get their clients from exercise and nutrition. And also one of your passions is nutrition. I would say that, you know, you're top notch, like in terms of nutrition, like that is your forte. And then you said, well, let me look at food sensitivities. Let me look at anti-inflammatory diets. Let me look at detox. And you specialize in female hormones as well. So what you can do is you can simply build off of your knowledge base, but you need to start with something, right? Like that's really important. That's why we have so many people come in IHP from IIN, and I'm not promoting IHP right now, but I always let people know that there's a next level to everything. And like what you did before led you to where you are now. And so I don't think you'd be here if you didn't become a personal trainer first. I don't think I'd be here if I didn't first start with nutrition, supplements, and personal training. And so that's why if anybody's kind of thinking like, well, how do I kind of break into the field? Well, I mean, you can just start as a health coach. There's no doubt about it. But also becoming a personal trainer, becoming a nutritionist, becoming a yoga instructor, all of those things, like you can never go wrong. You can take it with you for life. And I know, I mean, even though you're not doing as much personal training right now, or really none, but I'm sure that you use that right now with your current clients as well. I mean, would you say, or is that not true?
Yeah, of course. Clients always ask, should I be exercising this way, or should I be doing resistance? When should I be working out? What should I eat after I work out? And I think that I definitely use all of that knowledge to instruct clients how to move their body and, gain wellness in that way. And so having that background, I use it all the time with the integrative health coaching.
Well, that's a big part of it too, because, if we look at the de-stress protocol, it's how to help people rebalance their body. We're really talking about diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, science-based supplement protocols, and success mindset. And movement and exercise is a part of getting well and staying well. Yes, you can lose the weight without exercise. Yes, you can get healthy without exercise, but you'll never be at your very best without it. Meaning that if you're not moving your body, lymphatic flow is going to be more stagnant. You're not going to produce the right amount of neurotransmitters. You're not going to have the same level of energy. Your hormones are going to be lower. That's just the way that it is. So, wherever you end up adding exercise in, especially as a health coach too, you need to be able to teach it to your clients. Like you have to know something about exercise. Not everything maybe, and that's why I do believe that for you, it's a big bonus. Like it's a big thing to know that much about exercise, since you did it for, it has to be about 10 years, right? Would you say it's been 10 years since you've been in fitness?
Oh, I think it's been almost 14 years.
14 years. The time goes by quick. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. 13 years.
Yeah. And I know that I hired you for my company after you had been a personal trainer for a year or two. So you'd had some experience, and then you came on with me. And so again, it's been absolutely phenomenal, really working alongside you and getting to see your growth, because I have seen you start just from the very beginning of kind of modeling the exercise programs, then making them your own, and then teaching advanced, I would say, techniques along with advanced nutrition. And then what does that lead to? Well, it leads to clients getting phenomenal results. And when you add now functional medicine lab testing to it, and you add advanced wellness-based principles, sky's the limit. So I would love to hear now more about, how you're able to help clients. Like, so you're working with health, wellness-based, weight loss clients, anti-aging clients, anything goes in terms of the practice. How are you able to help them? What's your typical client look like? And what did they end up doing with you? Like as a health coach, because I don't think everyone naturally knows. How does the process work?
Yeah. So most people come in with some version of whether it's fatigue, I'm just not feeling my best. Most people are intuitive enough about their health that they know they could feel better. We have certainly some instances where people are very sick, But most people just want to get more out of their life. They want to feel better. They want to wake up feeling more rested. They want to have energy to play with their kids. They want to have, more brain power to do well at work, whatever it may be. And while that kind of runs the gamut of whether it's something more severe or whether it's just something more surface-based, we always look to see where are the majority of the imbalances, where can we improve them? And that almost always leads to a higher quality of life. And so some people may have gut-based issues, and so we address those, or it may be heavy metals, or it may be food sensitivities, or some people just may be really depleted and have low vitamins and minerals, and we need to get them stronger so that their bodies actually have the means to produce energy. And so for the most part, it always looks something very similar, where we figure out where is the imbalance, how do we fix it, and then how do we continue to build so that they feel even better than they do in those initial few steps.
So how do you find out if a client has gut issues or heavy metals or low vitamins? What's the process that you would work with a client? So basically, maybe you'd get on the phone first, do an initial consultation, listen to their specific story and symptoms. Is that right? And then where would you take it from there?
Yeah, so the initial consultations are a time for us to really get to know the client. So we have an initial meeting where we talk about all the places that they've been at with health and wellness, what they've done in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what are the things that they're looking to achieve now. And then based on that information, we suggest labs, and we get real quantitative functional medicine lab results that show us, okay, here's where we need to do some work, here's where we need to fix the gut, or here's where we need to increase minerals or electrolytes. And so the labs really give us a very tangible set of data to work with, where we're able to show the client, here's what we need to work on. And once we go over the functional lab tests in our second meeting, then we're able to suggest essentially all of the supplements that would help make them feel better, or the lifestyle changes, whether it be lowering stress or increasing nutrients, eliminating for certain foods. And nothing, in my opinion, beats the big five, because it gives us every point of data we need. It looks at the gut. It looks at heavy metal toxicity and minerals and vitamins. It looks at, whether it's food sensitivities on the food sensitivity test, omega-3 levels. So it's really a comprehensive way for us to give the client essentially everything they need to improve symptoms.
Without a doubt. And if people have never heard about the Big Five before, that is essentially 5 labs to assess all areas of the body to really figure out what's going on with you, deficiencies, toxicities, hormones, omega-6s, omega-3s. So it really is incredible. And I would say that one thing it also does is it tells you where you're already doing well, right? So there's certainly going to be things off, and most people, unless you've already been on a protocol, something's going to be off. So it's going to show you what's off. Again, toxicities, and then your deficiencies. But it also says, no, you're actually doing well in B vitamins. You don't need more B vitamins than you're taking right now. So it tells you where you're great at. So I love that part of it too. Like, it really lets you know, like, hey, you're doing a lot of things right, but here's what you're missing. And that's that's the game changer. But now let's say you're working with a client, and the only reason why someone wouldn't run the Big Five or a set of labs is typically just because of budget and finance. And I totally get that as well. There's obviously an investment to that. So how do you help people figure out the right protocol for them if they're not able to run labs?
So we typically will talk about nutrition and certainly the baseline for how to address lots of lifestyle factors, quite honestly, of what can be changed. And for most people, they have stressors in their life, and how to mitigate or at least support their body's response to that stress, or how to kind of take down their level of stress where they can. And also making proper food choices. And like we were talking about, exercise choices, where they're able to, again, more capitalize essentially on ways that are, in my opinion, free, right? Exercise, you can go outside and run sprints outside, or you can do burpees. You can, there's plenty of ways to move your body, get out in nature that kind of calms and relaxes you and also increases your vitality.
Yeah, 100%. And what about, so again, we know that we're going to provide diet and exercise and stress reduction, But what about, how would you recommend nutritional supplements to your wellness clients if they didn't run a lab?
So there's ways to certainly go off of symptoms, and typically we certainly address things at a foundational level. So just by starting with a more foundational protocol, that oftentimes can increase people's levels because all of a sudden they're getting good absorbable B vitamins and minerals, the daily nutritional support powder. So starting with a more foundational protocol, and if we know it's somebody that lives in the Pacific Northwest or, our neck of the woods in New England, we know vitamin D is likely low. And so we recommend kind of just a moderate daily amount of that. So there's lots of foundational ways along with detoxing. I mean, so many people have toxicity issues just from living in the, current world that we have where there's toxicities everywhere. And so starting with a detox, a 21-day detox, and really getting the body better balanced in that way.
Absolutely. And then share with us a little bit too that, okay, so you've done your initial consultation. On your second consultation, you've gone through the labs, or if they didn't run the labs, not able to educate them on that. You'll take them through the protocols you feel are best for them based on their symptomatology. And then the next call would probably be your follow-up. And then how will you make adjustments? Because I always like to say, listen, you can get the best program in the world and you need to start there, right? It has to be foundational, but every single person's probably going to need a couple little tweaks just to make it their own. So what will you do? Like, how will you help someone to make those adjustments on future follow-up calls?
Yeah, so we talk about essentially what's gotten better. We run down the symptom list and, okay, so your energy's feeling better or your sleep has improved. And we talk about the things that still need some work and the things that have gotten better. And then we can kind of build from there. And so, okay, sleep and energy are better, but we still haven't managed to get in some more exercise. And so we talk about ways to do that. So it's really about refining at that point, where the person has made improvements and figuring out where there's still room to see more. And we adjust that at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know one of your passions is absolutely helping women to rebalance their hormones. So I just want to touch on that today. And because I know there's so many women in my practice and your practice that are having issues with fertility. I mean, you just actually shared this, why it popped into my head. Just 2 days ago, you shared a success story, I believe, of working with a client. And sometimes it's months and years of trying to get pregnant with basically frustrated results. Like they're just not able to make it happen. They've gone through conventional testing. They've looked to see what's wrong and it's just not working for them. So we'll talk about fertility for sure, but I would love to hear about some of the women that you work with that you're able to help them with these female hormone imbalances.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's so common in today's world. I think women although we have so many more opportunities to be, powerhouses in the workforce, and we are able to, have families and also work, there is a level of stress, I think, on women, both mental and physical, that wasn't necessarily happening 40 years ago. And so I think stress and nutrient deficiencies take such a toll on women's bodies that over time, hormones can get out of whack, and addressing the imbalances that have led to hormones. So most women come to us and they're like, I want to fix my hormones. What will increase my progesterone or estrogen? And it's usually not as simple as just, here, take this, it will boost your estrogen or your progesterone. We usually need to figure out, why is your body not optimally producing these hormones to begin with? Or why doesn't it feel safe to conceive? Are you maybe not ovulating strongly? Is your progesterone not rising? And so there's so many ways that we can assess what's wrong for that in particular individual, because I think all women are different in what's kind of holding them back. And I also think that there's an aspect of really holding a woman's hand, where conventional medicine may fall a little short in the comfort that it takes to, guide a woman through that process of trying to get pregnant, because it's an emotional process, I think, however you want to slice it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just a massive lifestyle piece to this that you could never fix with conventional medicine, drugs, pharmaceuticals, or even supplements alone. And that's why, again, a real integrative practitioner that's going to work on lifestyle and mindset and emotions is going to help to a far greater degree. And yes, diet and nutritional supplements and detoxification. I mean, the truth is that even before getting pregnant, you want to make sure that you've got the heavy metals out of your body, that you've rebalanced the gut, that you're basically your body, which is going to be their starting point for a new life. You want it to be as clean and strong as possible. And I know that one of the things that you do for working with the women that you do work with, because it's not just about pregnancy as well, it's about, whether it's skin condition, rashes, thinning hair, PMS-based symptoms, bloating, you name it, is looking at the whole person, working on lifestyle, and of course, being able to help them on all aspects. And just, kind of letting people know that it's not going to happen in a week or 2 weeks, that sometimes it takes a couple months. Typically, it takes a couple months to rebalance those hormones. Could you share just a little bit more, depth about some of the programs, protocols, and the timelines?
Sure. I think that's a great point, because one of those things that plays into pregnancy is certainly making sure that the body is nourished and strong enough. And we know that depletion doesn't happen overnight. So getting it back on track certainly may not happen overnight. And oftentimes that is why I believe women don't necessarily always choose this route, because something they want to happen next month or this month. And it takes, I would say, at least a good 3 months, right? We know that cellular turnover in women's bodies really takes a good 3 months for their hormones to reset and their everything to recycle. So I would say usually 3 months is the shortest we can, see things turn around. But I do think that in some instances, the particular client that we spoke about a few days ago, she was close to 15 months, I think. And I know myself, that was the kind of journey I went on too. It was a good 15 months of natural rebalancing before I got pregnant. And while it's not the fastest way, it certainly is the most beneficial and the most long lasting and the healthiest for you and the baby. Because not only are you then going to have a successful pregnancy and you got pregnant on your own, but then your body's strong enough for postpartum. Most women think about like that ends to the mean of, okay, I'm pregnant and I had the baby. But then there's this whole life after that where you need to be the strongest and best version of yourself to, certainly deal with everything that comes after that, like the sleep deprivation.
100%. Yeah, there are 3 phases to pregnancy. And the only phase that gets any, notoriety is actually being pregnant. And it was never like that. I mean, I would say 120 years ago, there was always, this is the diet and lifestyle actually you need to follow while preparing to get pregnant. And that's a building up of the body. And then there's the diet and lifestyle you follow while pregnant. And then there's the post-pregnancy rebuilding of the body as well. And so 100%, I agree. I think 3 to 6 months is what women should have as a healthy mindset for getting their body balanced. They can go through a gut protocol, heavy metal. They can build up their vitamin levels and mineral levels, all of that. And again, don't lose hope if you have been trying for a year now, because I know I had a client and she was in Australia, and it took her about the same, I would say, 14, 15 months and she tried. It wasn't like she wasn't trying, but we had to tweak. And also a lot of women get pregnant when they just say, I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm just going to follow the healthy things that I need to do. I'm going to put it out there into the world, the universe, in God's hands, and I'm going to go about my life. And now you took all the pressure off of you, which, by the way, all that pressure really depletes a lot of that progesterone, pushes it towards cortisol, and it's not helping. So that's why, again, we're not going to make this an entire rebalancing female hormones podcast, but so much of that plays into stress and lifestyle. And so I'm glad that you shared that.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Let's also talk about, because you are a mom to two healthy kids, and I'd love to hear for you what that's been like as a health coach, a health professional, having your own kids, and how you took care of essentially your body, and how you're taking care of your kids now in a healthy way too. So many of our community members, mothers and fathers, want to know more about what they can do for themselves, their family, to live an overall healthier life.
Yeah, certainly having kids created my passion for kids' wellness along with family wellness. I believe that when kids are healthy and well, the parents can then live a much, lower stress life. And certainly there's, extremes to what an unwell child is. But even, I always say the fact that my kids don't necessarily have colds or issues every month allows for more flexibility. They're not out of school, or I'm not having to leave work to care for them. And it just lowers overall family stress and, of course, family worry. So since having kids, I've definitely put a focus. Of course, it's not perfect, right? Who is, but put a focus on our family's wellness, along with, of course, taking care of them. But I think it's a whole family-based approach where the mother and father, or whoever the adults are caring for the children at home, also need to be just as healthy as the kids, because it kind of works in this cycle. If the adults caregivers are taking care of themselves, children can pick up that they're happy and healthy. And so then the children are having a happier and healthier energy, and that lends itself to them being happier and healthier. And so I think some of the ways that I prioritize their health and wellness is, I usually say that I take like that 80-20 rule with my kids, where I'm very kind of structured with what we eat and what we do at home. Because I know that things like birthday parties and holidays and family time and all of that stuff, special trips, places, are going to come up, and I'm going to let my kids enjoy having cupcakes and cookies and whatever kind of food they want. And I want to know that that's not just compounding on a bunch of unhealthy stuff that they've had all week. And so I am very health conscious at home, but they also have a very healthy balance of being able to indulge when, the time warrants.
Yeah, I think that you brought up two really important points. The first is that your kids don't listen to what you say. They watch and do what you do. And so it's really tough to have healthy kids that make the right choices if you're not doing the same thing. So I actually know a couple people, friends of mine, they're telling their kids to eat healthy, but yet they're having ice cream every night after dinner. And it's like this back and forth with the parents just saying like, oh, how are we supposed to tell our kids they can't have ice cream if you're having it, every single night? And that's just the truth. And I agree with that. But then there's the other point, and my family, we follow the same exact basically guidelines. It's that, when we're home, we are eating healthy. We really are. And what that allows us to do is not fill up that rain barrel, so that when they then go to a party, or we have people come up on the weekend, you might think, oh, well, this is how they eat all the time. No, that's how we eat on Saturday, right? So like, that's what happens on Saturday when friends are up, family are up, all those fun things. But that then, when let's say my kids, they have, I don't know, like bread or something like that, pastas and other things like that. Well, what happens is, okay, they fill up their rain barrel a little bit, but it's not overflowing because they've been doing the other things well. And so that's what I want other people listening out here, is that it's not like if you see me out, my kids aren't having again, bread and stuff like that. It's just they're not doing that on a daily basis. And I think it does help then the psychology to say it's not always about deprivation. It's just these aren't health foods. And we know that they're not health foods. You can still eat them every once in a while, as long as it's not detrimental then to their health. Like if you have celiac, you're not going to let your kids have bread, or at least wheat-based bread. So would you say that's pretty much how you operate? And what else could you add to that as well?
Yes, exactly how I operate. And I think the other huge thing that sometimes gets missed, and I think that this is certainly more culturally influenced, is so many parents, once their kids start eating food, they do the healthy baby food thing because it's all mashed up. But once they start eating real food, they start feeding them kid, or what we would call kid food, and assume that just because they are children, they want things like chicken nuggets and French fries and more what we would call kid foods. And I basically, when my kids were little, I would make dinner for my husband and I would just blend up whatever we made and gave it to them blended when they still weren't eating solid foods. And then I would make it softer. If it was, chicken soup, I would blend it a little bit, or if it was potatoes, I'd mash them up. But I never fed my kids anything different than what we were eating. And I think one, like you said, they watch and they learn from what you do, not what you say. But also it then adjusts their taste buds accordingly, and they enjoy those healthier foods without always thinking or wanting things like chicken nuggets and French fries and more kid foods. And sometimes it's for ease that parents do that. Certainly it sometimes can be easier, but I think introducing children to foods that taste healthy early on is a huge benefit in how they will crave and see food, certainly later in life and into their toddler years.
100%. And, just last night, this is exactly what we had. We had purple sweet potatoes, we had broccoli, and we had roast chicken. Like, that's it. I mean, that's not a complicated meal. Potatoes go in the oven and they cook for about 45 minutes or so. Broccoli cooks up in about 15 minutes in a pan, and the roast chicken, roasted in the oven. Like that's about it. But when we were putting that on plates, and that's just one dinner, is we are also talking with our kids about why they're eating these foods. So we have a discussion just on health. Like I always say, hey, the healthiest thing on your plate right now is that broccoli right there. And we talk about it. And so, the thing is, your kids may or may not like it, but if you're also teaching them why they're eating it, they understand how their food influences their health. And by the way, your health influences everything else in your life. If you don't have any energy, it's difficult to move forward in all the different things that you want to achieve. So it's okay to have those conversations. We talk about the greens on their plate. We talk about the purple nutrients inside of that, purple potatoes, and then the chicken would be their protein. And so again, whether you're having a vegan dish that night or not, you can be teaching all of those things. And so I think one of the questions is, and you made a good point, is like, well, if you're already cooking it for yourself, your kids can eat it too. And the truth is that what we consider kids' foods are processed foods, are not as healthy foods. I agree. They're easier to cook up, and we do it too. Like in a pinch, we'll do any of the organic style of kids' foods. And so it's not like we won't eat French fries. We will, but it just won't be all the time. But what are some dinners, some maybe school lunch tips? What are some tips that you can give our community for making children's food a bit healthier?
Yeah, for dinners, particularly, I usually do a vegetable, kind of like you said, a starch, and then some sort of a animal or vegan-based protein. And so I do keep it fairly simple. I don't have elaborate recipes. My kids love soup, thank God. And so I do a lot of soups over rice. My kids love broth with rice. And so I'll do a little bit of rice with either more of a beef stew type of dish or a chicken soup. Or sometimes I'll even just do mushrooms and a little bit of coconut milk. And so they love that over rice. And so oftentimes I'll do that with potatoes. Or, like you said, I'm just roasting vegetables and roasting an animal protein, certainly chicken. And the soups and stews, in my opinion, kind of save me because they can all be thrown in a slow cooker or a pressure cooker. So if I have time to do it the night before, I'll slow cook it. Or if I'm in a pinch, I'll pressure cook it. And it can kind of all go in one pot. I don't have a ton of pots and pans to clean. And so the stew type of, ton of like pulled chicken, slow, roasted chicken, that kind of thing in the slow cooker we love doing. And I am lucky enough that I think they're both pretty good eaters, maybe not, maybe just by luck, but my son will eat sardines. So my lazy dinners, I open a can of sardines and he loves them. My daughter's a little bit pickier. But we'll do brown rice pasta if I need something quick and I know they might not be wanting something like chicken and broccoli. So there's ways to make it less inflammatory and still be healthy at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And just one thing that we'll do is we do like kind of theme nights. So one of those is Taco Tuesdays. I know a lot of people do that. But really, so for my family, we'll either do a grass-fed beef or turkey or something like that, maybe even like ground venison or something like that too. And you know, my daughters don't really know the difference, but my youngest daughter does not eat that, but she doesn't like that much meat. So that's not, we're not, I mean, really in our family, we're just typically having animal or fish-based protein at dinner, pretty much plant-based vegan for the rest of the day. But sometimes she just doesn't want it. We don't force her to have it, but then she has to have a protein. So we just have black beans. Like we have chickpeas or black beans or hummus as her protein. That's easy just to add because we're not going to force her to do it, but we do want her to still make healthy choices. So that's an easy backup. And then also, you know, my wife knows that one of our go-tos for like, oh, what are we going to do for dinner? We have to eat in 20 minutes is we'll just make a rice, not a stir fry because we're not mixing it with a lot of oil, but it's just rice with chopped up veggies, some hemp hearts on top or some chickpeas or things like that. And like, that's an easy go-to for your family. Grab some veggies, cut them up. You have your rice, toss it all together, add a protein, add a little olive oil on top or a sauce that they may enjoy. They can squeeze some lemon on there and get your kids to participate, right? I mean, get your kids to chop up some veggies. My youngest daughter loves avocado and tomato. So we always have avocados in the house and tomatoes, great healthy foods. She can chop them up along with my wife, toss them right on top of that rice. And it's an easy go-to.
Yes. Yeah. I think healthy food doesn't have to be complicated. And it also doesn't have to be expensive, which is, you know, another one of the kind of, it's not a myth. I think organic vegetables certainly cost more than conventional vegetables. But in my opinion, when I'm buying groceries, it's the processed stuff that typically costs more money and brings my total up higher. So I think it can be easy, straightforward, and fairly healthy. Planning ahead certainly helps, right? I think having the themes allows you to know, okay, tomorrow's Tuesday, and so this is what we're doing. And having some sort of a plan or at least a strategy in place for the week makes it run smoother. Because when you're in a pinch for time, you'll usually go to the easiest option. And sometimes that's always the healthiest.
For sure. And if you're going to go the easy option, which again, we all do it. So it's like those frozen chicken nuggets, those frozen whatever it might be, just try to choose the best relative possible choice. You know, that's really it. You know, yes, it costs a couple more dollars for the pasture-based chicken or whatever it might be, or the gluten-free or whatever you're looking for. But the truth is we're talking about your health, right? We're talking about your overall health. And I just believe in, and not everybody agrees with this, and that's okay. I mean, everyone's allowed to make their own family choices that they feel is best for them. But you can cut out like a bag of chips for $3 or so, and you can put the $3 then towards the, you know, organic chicken nuggets. Or just like you said, you know, if you make brown rice pasta or a lentil pasta and you add a pesto sauce, you could even buy a pre-made pesto sauce if you want with the brown rice or lentil pasta and throw some hemp hearts on there. You have an easy, quick dish that's super easy to make that really isn't that unhealthy for you. And your kids are probably going to love it. Have them add their favorite sauce. Red sauce. Okay, fine. Make your own red sauce. That takes 5 minutes in the pan, you know, to chop up some tomatoes, throw it in there if you don't want to do the canned. Again, you can make your own pesto, which takes a little bit more time, but absolutely worth it. Or just olive oil or grass-fed butter, whatever you'd like to do. So I think there are healthy options that we can do. But what about kids' lunches then, taking it to school? What are some of your tips there?
Yeah, I'm a little out of practice with the school lunches. But what we were doing, I typically will do some sort of a gluten-free bread. My son was getting into the cassava wrap, so I was doing like a good hemp and sunflower seed butter on cassava wraps with maybe a little bit of strawberry jam or something like that on a wrap. I always include fruit. I mean, fruit's one of those things where it's easy, whether it's rinsing off the blueberries or cutting up an apple. Always had some sort of a vegetable slice. So he likes carrots. He's the one that was in school, so I'm referring to him, but carrots and cucumber slices, and then some blueberries, apple, something with a little good fat, which is why I was using the hemp and sunflower butter. And that was typically what he had most days. I certainly would add in maybe some like granola type of like a few chocolate chips in there so that he had something sweet to look forward to. Or even sometimes I would put one of his multivitamins in there because he loved those. And then he felt like he was having a good little treat with lunch. So I think that there's ways to that, again, more planning, that the planning is always key. And sometimes I would just make sure my fruit was washed for 2 days. So it was already done and it was just having to put it in the container. So planning ahead makes it easier. But I would say fruit with some vegetable slices. Also, hard-boiled eggs. He does love eggs. I would do those, not hard-boiled, usually soft-boiled. Mix them up with avocado and put them on the wrap. He did like that. So kind of getting creative, but taking your kids' lead for what they like too, because you can't send them to school with something they're not going to eat.
For sure. And that's the thing. You can take your typical kids' lunch and you can make it healthy. Like there's just no doubt about it. One thing that both of my daughters love is cucumbers. And so just cucumbers in one little slot. They love orange cut of peppers as well. And then hummus. So right there, that's not high calorie, not high, and you need to get your kids some calories because they're going to be expending a lot of calories during the day. But right there, we know we've got chickpeas just mashed up as hummus, of course. We've got cucumbers. You can add a little sea salt to that if you want. Some peppers. They're not going to oxidize as fast. Sometimes when you put avocado in there, it turns brown by lunch. They're just not going to eat it, right? But you can do things like that. And for sure, fruit's a great one, especially if you can teach your kids like, hey, eat the fruit first and then, enjoy your wrap, whatever it might be. But again, getting those things in there are great. The cassava flour wraps are such a great idea. I mean, they really are. They're easy, they're gluten-free, and there's not that much to them. So whatever you're putting in them is the main part of their lunch. And maybe it's like you just said, a sunflower butter. We both just showed our Boston accent, by the way. I caught you, and then I just caught myself right there. The sunflower butter. But that enables them to get that healthy fat. It is nut-free, so it's going to be safe for most schools. And then you can mix whatever you want with it. One of my daughters likes Manuka honey. The other just does sun butter. And so I think all of those are great tips. You can put it on celery stalks if you want. So those are fantastic for sure. You mentioned something. I lost my train of thought for what it was for those school lunches. Oh, yes. For people listening to this in the future, your son's not in school because we are in the current pandemic times. And so he must be doing virtual learning. Is that correct?
He is. Yes. Yep. His school gave us the option. And rather than kind of participating in the ups and downs, I think with the unpredictability, we just thought, you know what, we'll take control of our predictability. And yeah, we took the at home, and I'm actually kind of grateful. He's getting lots of outside time along with the way he's learning. He's able to go outside, move his body, play, and not have to kind of, participate in structured play and outside time. So I'm kind of grateful for being able to let him do that.
Yeah, it's great, especially for young kids to be able to move their bodies, not sit at a desk or a computer for 4 hours in a row is just, so important. So that's great to hear. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you too, obviously, as a mom, as a health coach, you're trying to take great care of your family, but what about yourself? I mean, I just think that I've said this to my wife all the time. There's just no more important job in the world than a mother to their children. I mean, they look to you for everything. Yes, and fathers provide, a lot of support and help and whatever it is, but it can never replace what a mom does for their kids and how their kids look to them and the amount of responsibility on women today too, that are mothers that are working at the same time. They're also wives to their husbands or to their partners. So how do you find time to care for yourself? And what do you do for yourself that allows you to take good care of you for everyone else?
Yeah. So I have a whole kind of gamut of what I like to do for self-care, and they're all pretty simple. And the given day certainly dictates what that might be. There's a few constants. I have always been, and probably will always be, a good sleeper. I don't have the temptation to stay up too late. I go to bed when I know I'm tired, before I get that second wind. I don't watch too much TV at night, and I go to sleep and I sleep well and wake up in the morning. And sleep for me has always been a huge way to rest, rejuvenate, and take care of myself. It sounds silly and simple, but I know so many women, and sometimes I do grapple with, okay, now my kids are in bed. I want to stay awake and enjoy some awake time also. And so I find ways to do that. I'm much more of a morning person. So I have always erred on the side of putting my kids to bed earlier, knowing that they will likely wake up earlier. But if my kids are in bed by 7 and they wake up around 6:37, to me, that's fine that they're not sleeping until 8. I'm a much better mom in the morning than I am at night. So then I have a few hours to watch something with my husband or just hang out and talk, clean up the house so that it's organized for the next day. That's a huge thing of mine. I never go to bed with a disorganized house. And sometimes it, takes a lot of work, but it has to be done at some point. And I would much rather wake up to kind of a clean, organized surrounding, because that then does not start my day in a stressful way. And so those are a few things that I do on an ongoing basis. I love essential oils. I love tea. I do like an occasional glass of wine with girlfriends or family. But as far as the way that, I take care of myself, it is the sleep, water, exercise. I always drink water before my coffee or tea in the morning. And I do try to get daily movement and exercise, whether it's an actual resistance workout, or it's just a walk with my kids, or I play, catch or hide and seek outside. I'm moving my body in some way every day just because I feel better when I do. I mean, I think most people can argue. I always say you'll never regret a workout. That's for sure. You'll never do it thinking, oh man, I wish I didn't do that.
That's for sure. I've never heard anyone say that. I'm so upset that I worked out today. Said no one ever. And so, one of the big things that you just spoke about is like, okay, getting the house the way that you want it the night before, getting to bed a little bit earlier. But really, it's because you are working on your ability to handle stress in a given day and your mindset. I mean, so self-care is feeling like you have control over your life, over your surroundings to the best of your ability, because no one can be perfect and nobody's life is perfect. But setting yourself up for success is just such a big thing. And I know that you're eating healthy, you're moving your body, you're basically following that de-stress protocol is enabling you to take care of your body. What about other things? Like, do you like to get a massage? Do you like to do sauna? Do you do anything extra that you like to do for your overall health?
Yeah, so I love massages. I definitely like facials more. I do love kind of the whole green beauty industry, and I do like taking care of my skin. So definitely facials would be probably more up my alley than a massage, but we also have a PEMF mat. So using that as kind of a sauna or taking hot baths. I love doing both of those, certainly. And I think a lot of times too, for me, lowering stress is more about just doing the things that make me happy. And some nights, lying on the PEMF mat does make me happy. Some nights I'm like, well, I don't feel like being hot, so I'm going to sit on the cool porch and drink a hot cup of tea. And so kind of listening to my body and honoring and acknowledging what I need in that moment, it has always been a way that I've dealt with stress. And I probably always will, just because it seemed to work so far.
No, it's a great point. You're not Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, every form of medicine except for conventional medicine always teaches us the way that you get healthy and stay healthy is by balancing what is starting to become imbalanced. So for you, if you had a really stressful day and you think about getting in a hot sauna, you think that's going to cause more stress. Well, you're not going to do that. You're going to do something that would then alleviate that stress. But let's say that you're really cold and you're not feeling well and you're stressed out. Well, that might be a great night then for the sauna or PEMF mat. So it's looking at things that's what's going to balance you in that moment. And I think that's a really good point. Like, that is the way that we know how to do. Because eventually, so you're teaching people when you meet with them once a month or whatever it might be, what to do to start to live a healthier life. But eventually they are going to not intuitively, because they have been taught. So then it becomes intuition as to what they know that they need to do, right? It's like eventually you'll know what you need to do in order to keep yourself balanced and healthy. And so I think that that's, absolutely crucial. What's another tip that maybe during the day, if someone's stressed, what can they do for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes that you found to kind of bring down that level of stress and maybe re-anchor them back into a healthier mindset?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in that, right? Because most people are just building cortisol as the day goes on, and then they find themselves at 6 o'clock just completely wound up. And so whether it's, in between client appointments or after I've had my lunch, I typically do some deep breathing, or if it isn't after a meal, I don't typically do this after a meal, but if I have just a quick break, I will lie down and do a quick deep breathing exercise or 2-minute meditation on tape. Decoupling, which is kind of like a way to really anchor yourself down. And kind of to the point earlier of listening to my body, sometimes I actually need to get off of my chair, away from my computer, and go outside and take a walk. And that almost grounds me and energizes me in a very even way. Whereas sometimes I can tell my cortisol's too high. That's the last thing I should be doing. And I am going to do some deep breathing and re-anchoring. So sometimes it's that I need to move my body because I kind of just been sitting too long. And sometimes it's that I need to actually calm it down and calm my mind. And so I can go either way with the way I approach it.
Yeah. And I'm interested, and I agree with that. I'm interested in hearing, because I know it must be more challenging now too. If you're working from home and, your kids are in the other room, or that you're immediately moving from the integrative health practitioner to then the mom and wife within like a 30-second span as you move into the next room, wherever that might be. How are you able, do you have an anchor? Do you have a way that you make that transition? So for example, for me, at the end of my day, I have to transition. So I walk home, and that walk home is no more email, no more whatever. It's basically working on my breath and then now focusing and refocusing on family, and or it could be a workout. So I have a specific way that I break that work focus, and then it's now family focus. How are you able to do that, especially with working at home?
So I'm lucky enough to have somebody that stays with the kids. So I'm able to, I actually just recently with the help of my own, for the person that kind of helps me with my emotions and my stress, because I believe that everybody needs a coach, right? So I have somebody that I talk to when I'm feeling like things are getting unmanageable. And she recently said to me, listen, you need to decompress before you do move from one place to another. And although I thought I was doing it, I wasn't doing it consistently without fail. And so I started I would go from my office to my bedroom and just taking 15 minutes. And yeah, sure, it requires the babysitter stay a little bit longer. But it's worth it to be able to bring myself back down from whatever kind of stress may have transpired during the day, to being able to then be present for my kids and certainly present for my husband. I think that it's important that I didn't just run from the office downstairs and immediately jump into cooking dinner or being mom, because that was a hard transition with having them home. That was the hardest transition of them all. And so I've been able to, like you said, I usually can't be seen. I probably would take a walk, but if I ended up going downstairs and they were at home, once I'm seen, that's the end of that. So I typically do my deep breathing stuff in my bedroom before I go ahead and go downstairs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is tough because, once your kids see you, then there is no escaping for sure. But one thing I found too, and again, this is not going to work for everyone, but, just in terms of me getting home, some of my workouts are at home and they're just outside in the garage, whatever it might be. But I'll just grab my two daughters and be like, all right, let's give mom a break here and let's go work out. And they're oftentimes, willing to do that. They're not going to do my whole workout, but they'll be right beside me and we can do that. We can joke around. We can have some fun, which is good. But you do need to have some type of transition. I just think that going from what can be stressful thing to another stressful thing, both can be alleviated by just saying, okay, here's what the transition is going to be. I get to do 15 minutes, like you said, of whatever, watching a YouTube video, doing some deep breathing, doing a 15-minute body weight workout. It could be anything, but it should be something that you get to do, right? That you enjoy doing. And that will help, I think, transition.
Yeah, Yep. Sometimes I choose to call my sister or call my mom or send a few text messages that I've been, neglecting all day. And sometimes that fills me up just as much as deep breathing will, because those are people that I love connecting with, and it's nice to do it without interruption. And so I'll oftentimes spend the 15 minutes doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. So let's say that people are hearing this right now and they're just saying, well, I just don't know how I would apply this to my life. Like, okay, I'm not in this specific situation or whatever it might be. Let's say that someone, typical person you're working with, maybe they have a couple kids, maybe they're trying to work, they're trying to balance family, they're feeling stressed, they're not feeling like they have as much energy as they used to, their relationship's starting to suffer a little bit, like all of these different things, a little brain fog, a little grogginess, things that we hear all the time. What would you recommend, if it was you or it was a family member, someone that you work with, what would you say, here's what you should do, here's the first step, anything that you could give them as kind of that first place to get started?
Yeah, more from, you mean like a lifestyle standpoint? What could they kind of change on a daily basis?
Yeah, like what's one thing that you think would be a game changer for them?
So people that are not getting good sleep, that's usually one of my biggest. So I'll say, are you sleeping? Because people who say like, I wake up, I don't have any energy, I don't have any energy during the day, I'm irritable or I'm moody. If they're not sleeping well, sure, we can do a bunch of other things to help them during the day, but the sleep is crucial for how much energy they'll have and how good rested and what their mood is like the next day. So I always go to sleep. If sleep isn't a problem, I typically recommend drinking more water, moving your body, eating foods that I always say, if it grows, swims, flies, sure, go for it. But any of the more inflammatory foods, things we know, dairy and gluten and soy and corn, stuff that can dampen our body and restrict blood flow and just make us feel more sluggish overall, eliminating those foods kind of right off the bat, those can be show huge benefit without doing much extra.
Yeah, I would recommend too, food and sleep are the first two, because let's say even that you exercised, well, exercising on top of poor food choices, which are inflammatory, not getting enough sleep, which is inflammatory, and then exercising, which can be inflammatory, is not the best place to start, although of course we want people to exercise. So I do agree. I mean, sleep allows you to just be, well, obviously better rested and better to make better choices. I mean, you're more yourself. And then if you can't get the extra sleep, everybody can, but let's say that you can't, then you want to compensate by eating healthier foods. Like the days that my sleep is not as great, well, there's going to be, I'm on point for my eating. And I even get a little extra fruit, a little extra veggies in there because they're going to help compensate for that a little bit less sleep. So I think those are two great tips. Absolutely a big proponent of both of those. If people want to learn more about working with you and really understanding more about what you do and how you might be able to help them, how can they connect with you?
So they can connect with our scheduling department on equalife.com. They can also reach out to me through email at julia@equalife.com.
It's just equa.life though. I have to put that in there because it's a fancy website URL and I do it myself all the time. julia@equi.life.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
No problem.
And the website is a huge, the website going there is going to be able to direct you to both kind of the whole health coaching realm of what we do at Equal Life. And then from there, you can select, with which health coach you would like to work with. And so between that or email, those are the ways to get in contact.
That sounds great. And you've given so much advice, a lot of encouraging words to our community. Anything that you'd like to leave them with? So some parting words that they might be able to take with themselves?
I think I would say if you're feeling like you want to improve any aspect of your life, there's no move that's too small. I think sometimes we get so bogged down with big changes, big things to do, whether it's to spend the money on a lab or invest in X or buy a sauna. Whereas you can make small improvements that can have a huge benefit. And once you start small, that leads to more. And I think that keeping the focus to something that's tangible and giving yourself the grace and loving yourself enough to take those steps is, in my opinion, the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just you and hearing you give those words, of encouragement, inspiration right now. It's a real pleasure to be able to do this interview with you and just being able to see your progress and your growth over the past 13 years. And I don't know, if I've ever said it or not, but I'm just very proud of the integrative health practitioner, the coach, the mom that you've become, and how much that you've done for our community. You are the person who works side by side with me, answering all the emails that I'm not good at, giving my private wellness clients and yours all the attention that they deserve. So thank you. And I couldn't be more proud and happy with all of the work that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as I think I've tried to express over the years, I can't be more grateful for having started with you so many years ago, because I truly believe that start was what was putting me on the path to where I am now. And I truly love what I do. There's not a day that I dread working. There really isn't. And having that as part of my life, it's irreplaceable. And so I'm so grateful to have learned from you for so many years.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Amazing conversation today. Love being able to take an hour or so of your time for you to be able to share your expertise with our community. We will link up all of Julia's contact information in the show notes today. So head on over to today's podcast at stephencabral.com/podcast for all the details. Julia, once again, it's been a pleasure. Take care, and we'll talk with you soon.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp hearts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.